Hello, I'm Lori Steiner, sitting in for Armin Budish. Welcome to Golden Opportunities.
Today, we'll get to the heart of chest pain. Then, our dentist will polish us up on ways to help teeth look younger than springtime. We'll paint a beautiful picture of the new Rembrandt exhibit. Plus, depression is more than being down in the dumps. We'll raise your awareness. And make sure you protect as much of your life savings as possible if you or your spouse need a nursing home.
It's time to get GOing, so pull up a chair and join us at our kitchen table for Golden Opportunities. Something in your chest doesn't feel quite right. Could you have pulled a muscle out on the golf course? Or maybe it's just indigestion from that Mexican dinner you had last night. Still, what if it's something else? What if it's your heart trying to send you a message? Dr. Grace Cater is a cardiologist with Metro Health, and she's here to help us figure out when something is nothing and when something needs immediate attention. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is an important topic. We're talking about our hearts. When we have symptoms that involve our chest specifically, does that always mean a heart attack?
Well, symptoms in the chest can come from any organ that is located in the upper part of the body, and that may include the heart, the lungs, the muscles, the ribs, the esophagus, which is the swallowing tube, and or the digestive system. While most of the causes of chest discomfort is probably not from the heart, however, still any new chest discomfort that is occurring in the chest area, especially if it's associated with other symptoms of shortness of breath, neck discomfort, may be coming from the heart, and that is very important to get it checked right away.
Okay, so you mentioned shortness of breath, so discomfort in the chest and neck and shoulders and upper body part. What other symptoms go along with that typically?
Sometimes also people may feel fatigued, unusually fatigued. They may feel dizzy, they may feel lightheaded, they may break out in a cold sweat. So these are other symptoms that may occur with that.
Okay, and those are, everybody would kind of recognize that something is wrong going on there. What does a heart attack, though, feel like? We talked before, that is not necessarily what you feel with a heart attack. So what do many people also feel?
Well, also people, sometimes they may feel the classic symptoms, which is that sudden severe chest pressure or tightness that spreads suddenly to the rest of the upper body. Mm-hmm. But sometimes also they may have just only the nausea, or only feeling short of breath, or only having indigestion, or only having some neck or only jaw symptoms. They sometimes think it's a toothache, that it comes and goes. So these are some of the warning signs, as we say, of potentially heart disease. And we see that sometimes in women and also in older folks, they may present with these kind of unusual symptoms.
Okay, so you don't always know what's going on.
That's right.
If you're having some issues, but you're not really in that much distress, I mean, is it okay to have somebody drive you to the hospital?
No, absolutely not. It's really very important that you do not drive yourself, nor let anybody else drive you. And the reason being is, if you are having a heart attack or you're having forewarnings of a heart attack, you may have a cardiac arrest, and that person who's driving you is not going to be able to help you or save you.
Okay, well, that would be bad, especially if you're trying to drive yourself.
Absolutely.
Do you have some people who try to do that?
Of course we do. Of course we do.
Hopefully they realize it's not a good idea for them if it comes the next time. You also have a saying that you said, time is muscle, time is life. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means that when somebody is having a heart attack, there is a sudden cut-off of oxygen to the heart muscle, and that can cause electrical instability in the heart muscle, and people can have a cardiac arrest, and most of the time they may not make it, especially if it happens at home or outside of a hospital setting. But also when people have a heart attack, they may end up with a significant heart muscle damage, and in the future they may have symptoms of congestive heart failure, and also if that heart muscle does not recover completely, they may still have a cardiac arrest. So they are not out of the woods, and that's why the goal is to prevent a heart attack from happening in the beginning, and that's why we say time is muscle, time is life.
Okay, so the faster you get treatment, the better off you are.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the time between getting symptoms and getting that artery open to restore blood supply, the better the outcome and the more survival that we see.
Okay, great information. Very important for our viewers. So if you're worried about your heart, Here's something you can do. Attend a pep talk given by Dr. Cater and get to the heart of the matter. Just use the information that's coming up next. My thanks to Dr. Cater for giving us many somethings to think about.
Yeah, thank you, Lori.
Learn more about recognizing the warning signs and preventing a heart attack by joining Dr. Cater and Dr. Holly Persy at a free Metro Health Pep Talk on Thursday, April 5th at 6:30 p.m. at the Strongsville Library. Call 216-778-1220 to register or log on to www.metrohealth.org/Pep Talks. Next, spring has sprung. Can your smile blossom too? But first, we know what a peninsula looks like, a piece of land jutting out into a body of water. But why pick the word peninsula to portray a piece of terra firma? We'll defend its definition when we return.
Good Neighbor Pharmacy locations accept your Express Scripts and TRICARE benefits. If you're an Express Scripts or TRICARE beneficiary, contact us today to transfer your prescriptions. You'll be happy you did. Find the store nearest you at goodneighborpharmacy.com.
In Conneaut, visit Gertie's Pharmacy. In Ashtabula, go to Hoffman's Pharmacy. In Newton Falls, visit Newton Falls Pharmacy. And in Wyndham, go to Wyndham Pharmacy. For more information, go to goodneighborpharmacy.com. Good Neighbor Pharmacy, the best medicine for your health.
The answer should be clear to Latin lovers. Peninsula is a pairing of two Latin words, pain meaning almost, and insula meaning island. It's a perfect marriage.
Spring has sprung, and soon we'll be seeing colors changing all around us, with trees budding, flowers blooming, and green grass growing. These color changes bring a smile to our face, but color changes in our teeth can keep our lips sealed. Dentist Steve Marsh is here to spring on us the reasons why teeth can change color. Okay, color changes, like your tie is nice, brightly colored, but we don't want our teeth having that happen to them.
No, we don't. You know, Lori, and there's two different really things that play into color. One is extrinsic stain and intrinsic stain, and we'll try and go through that. Extrinsic stains are things that happen, for example, from coffee. Tea is a real stain problem.
Oh, I like tea, I know, I see the difference.
And red wine, I'm not sure what you are on red wine. Those respond very nicely to very easy dental treatment, and we usually use Zoom, which is a whitener that we do in the office. It takes about an hour and a half. And here's a patient getting the Zoom whitener. We paint this gel on, and for about an hour to an hour and a half, the patient lays in the chair, watches TV, and actually has a very pleasant hour to hour and a half. And then when that's done, we usually make whitening trays, and the patient can use that to keep them white. It has to be maintained, just like in some cases hair color. So about once every 4 to 6 weeks works well. But that's an extrinsic stain.
Okay, so then there's intrinsic as well.
Intrinsic. And intrinsic stains are stains that happen from a number of different causes, and unfortunately they don't respond to Zoom very well. People try and they try and they try over-the-counter whiteners, they don't work. In that case, we usually have to go to some dental treatment, and that usually involves veneers or crowns. And we have a few things that we can show them. Here's a patient whose teeth had turned gray. She was actually a Golden Opportunity viewer, 55 years old. Drove a long way to my office, and what was interesting, Lori, is that the teeth also look thin besides gray. The first question I asked her, how often does she brush, 3 to 5 times a day, and she used a very abrasive toothpaste. I won't even mention it.
She must have been really trying to get that white look.
And that's one of the problems. The more that she brushed, the more she showed the next layer. The thinner they got, the more translucent. So in her case, we did 10 veneers on the upper, 10 veneers on the lower, and she wanted, again, a very white smile. That would not have responded at all to Zoom. So again, we used the veneers, and she loved it. Her husband loved it as well. So that's one reason that you have an intrinsic color.
How about any other reasons?
Yeah, you know, when we were kids, people used to use tetracycline quite a bit. It's still used today. But if your mother took it while you were pregnant, you could have ended up with dark stained teeth. They were brown and black, and that's a problem. Also, when the child was very young, within the first 5 to 6 years as the teeth were developing, if they took tetracycline, sometimes later on it manifested itself in brownish teeth.
I have heard of that, yes.
You have. So we have some pictures of the tetracycline stained teeth. This is a patient who I treated actually in the last month. For years, she's hated those teeth. Her daughter's actually getting married next year. So you can see wear and tear that happens as we age, but you can also see that very brownish color. That would not and had not responded to any whitening. She had tried that previously. And we started on the upper arch. We're going to get to the lower arch in the next month or so. But we did that with some gum contouring, porcelain veneers, which could be made very thin. And again, after suffering for all those years with that real brown stain, she said to me, I'd like him to be as bright as possible, and we try to respond to the patient.
Sure. Yeah.
Now here's another reason, and this is interesting. This is a young man who had actually played a lot of sports. He got an elbow in the front teeth, and the teeth over the years turned yellow. And so again, what could he do? It's an intrinsic stain. As I explained, it doesn't respond to whitening. His other teeth he whitened, and these stayed more and more yellow. So what we ended up doing is doing 2 porcelain veneers. We didn't have to use the whole mouth, but 2 porcelain veneers gave him that beautiful smile. He wrote me a beautiful letter, incidentally, because he said he had suffered for all those years with those dark teeth. So there are a lot of different things that play into different colors of teeth.
All right. Well, very good information. If you want to color your smile happy, give Dr. Marsh a call. His number is next.
See what Dr. Stephen Marsh can do for your smile by calling 440-461-1003 or visit www.clevelandsmiles.com. Next, an artful exhibition. Looking for places to go, things to do? Welcome to our community calendar. Are you a police officer or firefighter nearing retirement? Then you'll want to attend a free dinner seminar. The 10 issues you need to address before retirement. It will be held Tuesday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. at Lockkeeper's Restaurant and is presented by Lineweaver Financial Group. Reservations are required and can be made by calling 216-520-1711.
Collectors of works by the famous Dutch artist Rembrandt have sometimes been surprised to discover that their Rembrandt isn't really a Rembrandt. Would you be able to tell? Well, now you have the opportunity to see Rembrandt's official works side by side with paintings done by his students in his workshops. They're all part of the exhibit Rembrandt in America, currently on display at the Cleveland Museum of Art. John Seidel is the co-curator of this exhibit, Rembrandt in America, and he's here to point out the differences between the two. So this sounds like a very interesting exhibit. Now, with regard to Rembrandt, I know a lot of artists aren't successful during their lifetime, but he was. So what made him so successful?
Well, he started out incredibly successful. Over time, he actually had all kinds of interesting and complicated things happen. He went bankrupt, he had to sell his house and art collection, and it ended up actually working for his common-law wife and his son in a corporation that was that they had set up in order in some ways to actually hide some of his finances. So he had all kinds of interesting and complicated things happen.
Okay, but then he ended up being a portrait painter, right?
He did a lot of portraits, and certainly during his lifetime that's what most people probably knew him as.
Okay, here's one of those portraits now. So who is that?
So that's a guy named Martin Loughton. He's an incredibly wealthy Mennonite grain merchant. And what Rembrandt does, it's so remarkable, what people thought was so amazing about his work. He could just create this three-dimensional form that almost seemed to be living and breathing right in front of you.
Oh, you can see that.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, he seems almost, we've interrupted him. He's like holding a letter, turning as if we've just sort of interrupted him.
Wow. And I know Rembrandt did have students. He passed along all these techniques to students in his workshops. Were his students so good that they could fool the public that he had, you know, they painted it, but they thought it was actually his?
Well, Rembrandt didn't necessarily make it easy because he often collaborated with his students on a work of art, because the guild regulations at the time, basically the union regulations, meant that he was going to be signing the pictures that came out of the studio whether he painted it or not. So it was really more of an endorsement of a product.
Okay, and I think we have two pictures here, one by a student, one by Rembrandt. So how can you tell the difference? Which is the real one?
Well, Rembrandt was absolutely incredible at creating these three-dimensional forms in space. And so the picture on the left, which is from a private collection in New York, really captures that sense of a living, breathing figure right in front of you. Whereas the other painting, which is from Allentown, same model, so it's actually exactly the same person. But here you seen with the light basically shining right in her face. It's very flat. You don't get a sense that she's in a real room. And when you see the paintings face to face, it's a little bit hard to see on the television screen, but the painting from Allentown is much more evenly and smoothly painted, and Rembrandt was famous for varying his brushstrokes.
Okay, that was very interesting. So, and then you have an area in this exhibit that actually shows how like the museum determines whether or not it's actually by the artist.
Yeah, we're looking at one of our portraits. Cleveland has 4 paintings associated with Rembrandt, although none of them are securely attributed to him. And one of the pictures we're really looking at in terms of how a scientist or how a conservator, someone who restores paintings, examines the picture and really determines authenticity, or starts to think about authenticity. Things you can't really see from looking at the surface with X-rays and infrared light, for example.
Okay. Now I understand in the exhibit there's 30 paintings or so that you think are Rembrandt's,
right,
and 15 to 20 that are probably associated but maybe by his students. He's also got etchings and prints, so why are those important?
Well, Rembrandt in some ways was actually much more innovative as a printmaker. He was doing things that really nobody else had done before. Character studies, landscapes, working in all kinds of different genres, and also printed in a whole new way. So works like the ones we've been looking at, he tones the paper, for example. He uses different kinds of paper to get different coloristic effects. He innovated techniques.
Okay, well, sounds like a great exhibit. So this stunning exhibit, Rembrandt in America, is at the Cleveland Museum of Art through May 28th. But don't paint yourself in a corner by waiting to experience it. Pencil in a date to see it soon. Then draw your own conclusions about which paintings are the real Rembrandts and which are not. My thanks to John Seidel for a masterful preview of this artistic master.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Learn more by calling the Cleveland Museum of Art toll-free at 1-877-262-4748 or click to their website, www.clevelandart.org. Next, climbing out of the depths of depression.
It's time to get up and go. An exercise minute on golden opportunities.
Hello everybody, I'm Mike Carbon from Breakout Fitness, and today we're going to do an upright row that's going to work every part of our shoulder. All right, you ready to go? Ready to go. All right, here we go. We're going to start with our feet about shoulder width apart. We're going to stand up nice and tall to maintain a good posture. I want you to start with your palms facing your thighs with the dumbbells in your hand, and all you're going to do is bring your elbows up past your wrists and bring the dumbbells to the top of the chest. Return starting position slowly, up, and right back down. Great. Once again, 3 or 4 sets of this, 10 to 15 repetitions should do you some good. This exercise helps you out in a lot of ways, picking things up, so it's very important to get this done at home. You feeling good? Yes. All right. Okay, everybody, now it's your turn to get up and go.
For your copy of the exercise booklet, please send $1 for postage to Golden Opportunities, 23240 Chagrin Boulevard, Suite 450, Beechwood, Ohio, 44122.
The arrival of spring with its extra sunshine is always a welcome boost. But for some of us, even the promise of warm days to come is not enough to lift our spirits. Depression can be a very real problem no matter what the season. Eileen Yates, the Executive Director of Senior Independence, an award-winning home care agency in Greater Cleveland, is here, along with David Schell, the Executive Director of Breckenridge Village Not-for-Profit Retirement Community in Willoughby. Whew, you both have these long titles.
Long titles.
Well, David, let's start with you first. What does your experience suggest about depression in adults?
Well, Lori, 1 in 4 older adults are misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed for depression, and there's a lot of things that we can look for, not only in ourselves, but as children or caregivers of someone, to look for changes in behaviors and patterns, some of the things that are occurring in personal grooming. Sometimes up on the, you can't sleep, and particularly sleeping a lot, and just changing the way that we respond to things. Eliminating social contact, and then probably worse is just total isolation.
Mm-hmm. And we hear about the winter blues. You know, even mild winter like we've had,
yes,
it's sad, but what are some of the is that a trigger, and are other triggers for depression?
Absolutely. Seasonal affective disorder is one condition that occurs. There can be changes in our own selves and post-holiday blues. Certainly the loss of a child or spouse And then just the stigma with that. And sometimes there's also changes as a result of surgeries, of other life events that are occurring, and sometimes even the events in the world around us.
Yeah, that's for sure. These days, it seems. So, Eileen, in what way can Senior Independence step in and really help these older adults who are suffering from depression?
Well, Lori, Senior Independence is very pleased to be the recipient of the Home Care Elite Award, which is a listing of the top 25% of agencies throughout the United States. Some of the things that we can do is from a variety and a menu of services. We can stop by and make a meal for a person, knowing that people who suffer from depression oftentimes have very poor nutrition. We can accompany them on a walk. We can take them to an exercise class, knowing that endorphins can then be stimulated. We can also do a variety of services just around the house, chores, cleaning out a closet, helping to organize personal papers, things that make a person who's suffering from depression sometimes feel overwhelmed.
Sure. And you offer this to the general public. Do you also offer something at Breckenridge Village?
Absolutely. We offer a variety of services for wherever a person may call home, whether that is out in the community or at Breckenridge Village. And there we're able to adapt to a person's needs as they change and enable them to remain living in their own home. We can go in and develop a relationship with our personal care assistants who are very carefully screened and highly trained, and in a very short time they have that confidence and that relationship that they're building.
And that relationship is important for people to open up and let them know what's actually going on.
Absolutely.
So what's the feedback been at your facility?
It's very positive, Lori. I think for the retirement community, residents are engaged and active in so many things, and there's a lot of support mechanisms, but sometimes it's just a little bit more, and a family member knows that that support is being provided, and certainly out in the greater community, a wonderful addition.
All right, that sounds great. So, my thanks to Eileen Yates and David Schell for helping us to see that there's a lot of help out there for our older loved ones. If you'd like to learn more about the Senior Independence Program, call 440-953-1256 or get in touch with Breckenridge Village by using the information that's coming up next.
To find out more, call Breckenridge Village at 440-942-4342 or visit their website, www.breckenridgeohio.org. Next, you don't have to lose everything if you go to a nursing home.
Hi, I'm Trapper Jack for Nelson Vein Clinic. It has to do with removing varicose veins. Deb, you had the process done when?
Just 3 days ago.
And how did your legs look before?
They look like a road map to Akron.
Yeah. Were you shocked at how fast everything took place once you were here?
Absolutely. Not more than 30 minutes. I actually felt no pain. I felt no discomfort.
Was it even less painful when you found out it was covered by insurance?
Of course. It was an amazing experience, and she's an amazing doctor.
Isn't it time you took care of your varicose veins? Call or log on to nelsonvein.com.
Did you miss a phone number or website? Then here's your second chance, because we're going to list all of that information again. Then we'll find out the minimums and the maximums of Medicaid. You're not allowed to keep much money or property and still get Medicaid to pay for nursing home care. But you are allowed to keep something, and the amounts just went up. Here to make sure that you keep all you're entitled to is my law partner, Mike Solomon.
Hi, Laura.
So, hi, Mike. What's changed to let our viewers keep more of their assets?
Well, most of the changes impact married couples. You basically, let's say the husband goes into a long-term care facility. We add up all the assets at that point. And except we don't have to include the house, we don't have to include a car, and we don't have to include basic, personal effects. You take that amount, you add it up, and they're allowed to keep 1/2 of it. The other half they have to spend down. Now, there's a maximum, and that maximum has increased this year to $113,640, so they can keep that amount.
Okay, well, give us an example of how that actually works.
Okay, so let's say stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs total $100,000. Husband goes in a long-term care facility. Spouse can keep $50,000 of it. But let's say the amount is $300,000. Half of that's $150,000. But you're subject to that maximum of $113,000, and that's the amount you get to keep.
All right. Is there a minimum amount that they don't have to spend down below?
Yeah, there's also a minimum amount. So, for example, right now the minimum amount has been increased to $22,728. So, for example, let's say they had $40,000. Now, normally you'd say half of that is $20,000, but they don't have to spend down to $20,000. They can keep the higher amount, the $22,000.
Okay, well, that's a good bonus. Any more good news for the viewers?
Well, yes, as we've talked about on the program before, when, let's say, again, the husband goes in a long-term care facility, the wife gets to keep her income, Social Security and pension benefits, that sort of thing. But generally, the benefits the husband gets, the pension and Social Security, has to go to the long-term care facility. Now, because that can put a big burden on the community spouse, the law allows the community spouse to keep a certain minimum amount so that she can live. So, and that means, for example, right now the minimum is $1,800 per month, and the new law with expenses that, the change in expenses allows you to keep an amount up to $2,841 a month. So if you're below that amount, you get to get some of the institutionalized spouse's income.
Okay, we've got an example here.
Yes, for example, let's say the spouse in the community has $500 a month in income. Her husband, let's get this $2,200 from Social Security. She's below $1,800, so she gets to take $1,300 of the husband's assets and keep that income, and keep that each month.
Oh, well, that helps on a monthly basis then too. All right, that's good information. Medicaid's not overly generous, and you can't keep much if you or your spouse have to go to a nursing home. But you can keep something. Make sure you know your rights. My thanks to Mike Solomon.
Call Budish, Solomon, Steiner, and Peck at 1-888-236-5173 for more information, or to schedule a speaker for your organization. Or log on to www.budishandsolomon.com.
Thanks for joining us. Next week, can colon cancer be stopped? We'll alert you to the warning signs and prescribe preventions. Then, long-term care can also mean lots of money. We'll take a long look at how to cover those costs. Is your back bothering you? We'll speak healing words for your sore spine. And we'll reveal a new sinister government plot to cut Medicare benefits for nursing home. Until next week, please remember to make the most of your golden opportunities.
Would you like to join our kitchen conversation? All you have to do is call toll-free 1-877-765-1543 and leave us your question, name, and phone number. Or log on to www.golden.tv for all the latest information and show updates.